MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning into In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams.
MAHO Talk Show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we certainly appreciate it. And like we always do at this time, want y'all to know IMHO Talk Show live and direct right about now. So make sure you tell a friend, tell a friend. You know where to reach us. 101 Jams, the flagship station. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. You know how we get down. Sir Charles Razor.
Yeah, and she ain't think she was gonna get away from me without me coming in. Miss Shy, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yes, what's up?
And we are here as we always do, Razor, to edutain and all that good stuff. And but particularly right today, this as we speak to y'all live on air under the sound of our voices, right? We are the Sunday before the election of 2024. The election for 2024, right? This is gonna be a historical one. So we had to bring.
How is everybody feeling?
So we had to bring in the big guns.
Yeah,
we had to bring in the big guns. But hey, you asked us how we're feeling.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you all are feeling.
We talk about the election coming up, right? Yeah. Or just in general. Okay, let me see. I don't know. Like honestly, if I'm speaking from my heart of hearts, I don't know, because I'm going to have to figure out how to survive through each presidency. I'm not in agreement with either one, honestly.
What does that mean though? What does that mean? Being in agreement with them? Agreeing on what exactly?
I don't like either one of them. Like I
Their
honestly,
policies, or you don't trust them?
I don't like their policies. You know what I'm saying? Where I don't dislike either one of them wholeheartedly. And I'm not in agreement with each one to the point where I'm like second guessing, do I want to get this? Am I willing to give up that on this person? And vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So while I know as a black man, I shouldn't be looking at the Republican side at all. Right? That's because, you black, you Democrat by default. Ain't that what they say? So you can laugh, Angelique. That's all right. And
I mean, I wouldn't ride with that. But
well, no, I'm just saying.
Like,
I'm not,
based on who they got leading right now.
And it's not riding with them. It's not riding with them. What I'm actually looking at is where my life is right now, right? Taking out all emotion. And I put down what I'm voting for, what matters to me, what I've lost, what I don't like about how things are, right? And then I start taking what I know about what they've said and what they've done in their past and lining that up. And my truth is, I don't see where I win without being able to migrate with either one of them in my life.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Now let's add this point of clarification before we go any further too, though, because we know that the national to federal elections always get the spotlight, shined on it.
Yeah.
But we also have some local seats that's up as well. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But I want folks to know that, why the big sexy is always a presidential election.
Yeah.
In many, many ways, your local election set the tone and is even more important in some regards. When you think about locally, whether it's city, county, or even state, those are the folks who have the votes for the federal level to be able to do what they do for the most part. So
right.
When folks remember that we're going to dig into all of this today. It's not just about Harrison and Trump.
And we're going to be honest too.
So let's educate ourselves on it.
Yeah. Y'all might not like what we say, but we're going to be honest. And the show is called In My Humble Opinion.
In My Humble Opinion. And good radio tells all sides. Angelique, good journalism.
Yeah, bring her in, Charles.
Like great journalism. I correct me if I'm wrong, but because I know a lot of times you and I've had these conversations. Like sometimes people will maybe misinterpret it, maybe take wrong an article or a headline that Charlottesville Tomorrow may put out there.
Sure.
Sometimes forgetting that good journalism just sets the stage, just gives you the info, tell you
That's
what
right.
it is, and you as a reader takes that information and you should come to your own conclusion. Like you just take the facts and come to your own conclusion. So a lot of times people get mad at us, especially Razor, because because we try to show the full spectrum, so we can critically think.
Yeah. And I think, if you're like Razor, and you're thinking about your vote and who you're going to vote for president, what I would say is it's really important to get good quality information.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, if you're relying on the ads that are coming through social media, I don't know about you guys, my inbox, my text messaging, it's just pummeled with these campaign ads. It's a lot of money going into folks trying to get their version of the facts out.
Yeah.
And I will say some candidates' version is more truthful than others.
That's true.
And how do we understand that, right? I think having good quality, accessible, for Charlottesville Tomorrow, free to access information is really crucial.
Yeah,
it's really crucial. Vote on the facts, and not on the way that candidates present the facts. Or present their version of reality. And we know, I'm a journalist. We're a news organization. We are not a news organization that does any endorsements. We are nonpartisan. And also we know from reporting that the Trump campaign, a lot of misinformation and disinformation is coming through that campaign.
You know the bad part about that, Charles?
Yeah.
I remember when certain people were president before, life was bad because people talked out the side of their neck and acted crazy. But as a business owner, I thrived. It was troubling for me to living a life where people were like so disrespectful. I just didn't like the way the country was. But business wise, as an entrepreneur, I thrived. That's when I made my name here. And when I grew to the levels that I did grow to. Was during that time. So now my family is getting a chance to be exposed financially to things we had only talked about that was like 3-5 years down the road. Where our reality now. But then life was like going out every day waiting on somebody to disrespect you because they thought that they could. Because it was openly and accepted in the presidency. So it was a troubling time for me, man.
Interesting. But Angela, you didn't say how you feel though. Like you gave us some of the actual factuals. Like, but you as and let's you came on our radio show. You know how we do. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. You being an Indian American woman,
successful Indian American woman.
No,
we calling you successful before you back out.
Yeah, you know, like running a business and all that good stuff.
We run a nonprofit.
Oh,
just to be
nonprofit.
clear.
Yeah.
Nonprofit news. Charlottesville Tomorrow is nonprofit news.
True that.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling this election season?
There's no denying how, you guys saw when Black Panther came out, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does it feel?
Which one? The first one or the second?
First one.
The first one. That's the only Black Panther. That second one was
I like the second one, but how does it feel, right? Like, not that, of course, we've all seen ourselves represented in media, in politics before, but to that level, there is something, for me, it was like Crazy Rich Asians, right? When Crazy Rich Asians came out, you have this feeling of whether you think it's a great film, whether you don't, whether you like rom-coms or not, you have this feeling of, we all been like watching white folks in rom-coms for a long time and enjoying them. Maybe I liked 16 Candles as much as the rest of it, right? But actually, everyone else can also enjoy seeing people who don't look like them. And
that's right.
And I say that, again, I'm a journalist, I'm nonpartisan. Just the visual of having Kamala Harris or somebody who frankly can eat some of the same food my family eats, or somebody who has migration stories the way that my family has migration stories, and mixed race families. There is something that's quite empowering about that. Whether she wins or not, whether folks vote for her or not, it is quite a thing to see. And I can't say that, I'm now into my middle years, I would call them. I can't say that like 10 years ago, it was even a thought in my brain, there could be a Black Desi American.
Oh, we went through that with Obama.
President.
We went through that with Obama.
Even Obama, I had a similar feeling. And now it's like even closer to home. So, that's just really empowering. I'm really, I have nieces. I'm like thrilled for them. It's not even going to be a question for them that this is possible.
That's right.
Awesome. That is awesome.
I love it.
Yes, indeed. One of the things that makes me think of as well is I remember my son actually I decided to dress up as Obama, but President Barack Obama for it was like book character day, and so he had a Barack Obama book. And so this was I think this may have been for the second term, right? So he would have been like 6. If I remember correctly, yeah, for that second term. What I mean? Like, so that's the kind of representation and things that that we're talking about, and the impact that can have. But real quick though, my thing when it comes to the feeling and the take, I ultimately want folks to, as you said, be informed, number one. And so my feeling is that I'm fearful that people, are still voting for the wrong reasons.
They are,
and I just try my best to spread correct information and whatnot. And I understand how people's vote. People typically vote two one of two ways. Either you vote for the betterment of the society at large, or you vote for strictly personal interests.
I think most people it's some combination of the two.
I mean, it's a combination,
100%.
but I feel like at the end of the day, like you have to pick. Like ultimately, you got to be like, who's going to be best for what?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I personally err on the side of what's better for the whole. For instance, like I heard Razor mention business and whatnot. Actually, as our tax preparer, just the other day, like, and I said, because we've had business since the Bush administration and through Obama, Trump, Biden. So I was like, when have we done the best? And surprisingly, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, surprisingly, they said during the Democratic presidencies. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that part of that is the way that our financial structure is built up, meaning that, as a matter of fact, Dave Chappelle did a joke about it. He did a joke about it, talking about, when Bush was in office, like it was okay to be greedy. Now we got Obama in there. He talking about, like this giving. He want to take some of my money and say we should be sharing. I don't like this sharing. I want to be selfish. You know what I mean? But my point, that's part of it, because you find like sometimes some administrations, the way that they do the tax code and stuff, it can be more favorable to you if you have more charitable donations, right? And then on the flip side, some may implement a tax code to where the more money you make and keep, it may be more favorable to you tax wise.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it really depends on what side you're on.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I feel like when we vote, it's supposed to be the vote to me is supposed to be for the whole, for the commonwealth, for the common good, not any special interest.
Well, look, the way I look at it sometimes too is, yes, there are particular policies that can help or hurt individuals or specific families or people with specific levels of wealth or generational wealth at that point. When you get down to sort of the local level in particular, one thing to keep in mind is that no matter how rich you are, you can't fix a pothole if there isn't a structure to fix a pothole. You can't make the public schools strong if there isn't a structure to make public schools strong. You can't prevent gun violence with money. You cannot.
Can't.
Right?
That's right.
You cannot. And those are also things that will affect your individual well-being.
Spot on.
So, and again, right, every candidate has ways of talking about these issues that you can evaluate for yourself, which is why Charlottesville Tomorrow has been putting so much effort into our voter guide for so many years.
That's right.
Even though, we don't cover presidential election. I don't think anybody's going to SeavilleTomorrow.org to get information about the presidential candidates, except
you'd be surprised
that yes, when we start looking. So can I get into it, Charles, to explain how to use the voter guide?
Yes,
absolutely. And for those that don't know, we are talking about, if you're curious, cvtom.org, cvtom.org/2024 voter guide. So that's cvtom.org/2024 voter guide.
Yes. That's where you find it. You also just find it at the top of our homepage. Listen, if you're subscribed for free emails from us, you're getting that link in your inbox.
Yep.
Our voter guide, we really last year was a huge year for local elections. Everything was up for grabs. This year is smaller, but still really important, mainly in town councils. So if you're in Scottsville, if you're in Mineral, in Louisa, if you're in Louisa Town, these are places that have seats up for grabs that it's really important to learn about. When you get to the voter guide, we built this tool so that, and this sounds so basic, but it wasn't really available. There's a tool, you put in your address, and what's on your ballot will pop up with links to candidate Q&As and information about those candidates. Not every candidate responds to the Q&As that we build. We do a giant survey to build those Q&As, and then we ask candidates questions. Not every candidate responds, so when we don't have candidate responses, we have curated some links and informations to nonpartisan sources so that you can see at least as much as we've got about those candidates. If you're familiar with Charlottesville Tomorrow, you know Charlottesville Tomorrow has been doing a voter guide since its founding in 2005. Last year, we expanded the voter guide beyond Charlottesville and Albemarle into 12 Central Virginia counties and cities. Why? Because we found that you can Google the name of people who are on your ballot and find nothing in some cases, or find only a Facebook page or a website designed by that candidate, which has not been vetted by any independent source or journalist. So we really started investing because this is core, right? Even if you're in a precinct where there's 700 voters, those 700 voters are going to affect the school board for the whole county, right? So this is really core to our democracy. So we began to invest in this, and we hope you all can use that tool.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to, go to your registrar and look at a PDF of your ballot, so that you can, even if while you're waiting in line to vote, if you haven't already voted, I know a lot of people have already voted. Tuesday, you're waiting in line to vote, you can go to that voter guide and at least get some information to make a choice. So it's not just based on who you know or what you've happened to heard, but something you've proactively gone out and
I'm waiting till
informed yourself
Tuesday,
about.
Charles.
I
gotta wait till Tuesday because I'm still looking at all information. And something that you said earlier was voting for the greater good.
Now, hopefully you're talking about up and down the ballot. You ain't just talking about just the president, right?
No, I'm talking about all around because I understand now. honestly, since I got as a board member of Charlottesville Tomorrow, because I had access to things that I didn't think was for me. And when you and I came on, and Giles was back there, I started actually looking and listening and realized how the things that I thought didn't affect me were directly affecting me.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And so I'm so thankful for what we do at Charlottesville Tomorrow to give access to everybody. Right. But am I wrong for feeling like I am the greater good? My household is the greater good.
I don't think you're
What
wrong.
about, what do you
I don't think
Charles?
you're wrong. I don't think they're necessarily.
Is that a collective? Because that's a slippery
I mean,
slope.
I may need a little more context around that, but
like, I think personally, in order for you to be a active member of your community and for you to bring something to the table, you have to do everything that you can to be the best version of yourself. So therefore, if I lay out all my wants and needs, my hard yeses, my hard no's, and I vote according to that, I'm voting what would be known as selfishly, but I'm voting it so that I can be productive in the community.
Oh, I feel you. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. My main thing to that, and like I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it makes me think about, like other folks who say that for the reason of justifying why Black people would vote for Donald Trump. From my knowledge, like from what I know from that perspective, is that
now I didn't say I was voting for Donald Trump.
I know, I got you.
Look, you got,
but you made me think of it though. but you just made me think. That's where it took me. Like when I hear people say, weighing the sides and whatnot, from in my humble opinion, there, like I'm not going to stay at a job and work at a job to where I am blatantly disrespectful because they're able to pay me. Like that's just my perspective. Now, to each his own. But when we look at things where we see everybody that's on his team, and I know you nonprofit, so you may got to stay away from it unless you want to give your personal opinion. But my humble opinion is that when we look at the teams, right, and I hear the side of folks saying to Black people, well, what have the Democrats done for you? The Democrats have always taken you for granted. That's what one side says, right? But then when I look at the other side, you look at teams that are literally from neo-Nazi group, white supremacy group, people who have business histories of discriminating against people of color in their business practices. They support a plan such as Project 2025. Undoubtedly, like people who support that and wrote that, also funders and donors, and even part of the team. And that is specifically to set us back pre-civil rights. So when I look at that, I don't care how good of a tax break you're gonna give me.
Yeah,
I feel like you're gonna hurt my children more in the future. By me voting for that nonsense rather than you saying, oh, I'm gonna give Black businesses this kind of break. Okay, but what are you doing for us long term? And your whole ideology, like your whole even theology, is so misconstrued to where that's where I have to look at the people, the person, and honestly be like, where where does this lead us? Where does this take us? And we as Black people can't bank all that necessarily on Democrats of the past. We have to look at it as how can we enact these actual policies, to better ourselves.
Would you pivot as a business if you could and it benefited you?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's my question to you. Would you? Yes or no?
Well, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. No,
you wouldn't.
I would say no for the fact that. So let me break it down like this. And I'm sorry, Angela, we're gonna get back on track. So now.
No, just out here trying to find one of these Black jobs they offered until Tuesday.
Right. And one of these ISO countries that's a pile of garbage floating. Yeah. Like, no, you ain't gonna talk about me and my people like that and get my vote, bro. No, wait, that
I got you. I'm just saying, like, yeah,
but to your point, let me ask you a question. Okay. So I answered that in the beginning, but I'm gonna give you another example. I tell people all the time, as much as I despise George W. Bush, I would so much be okay with him being a choice as a Republican candidate now over what we have. For that simple fact of that, I could see still then, and we think about like Senator John McCain and that mold of Republicans, even though I didn't agree with them totally and didn't support them totally, at least there was policies and people in place where I felt like it was just about the money and like they Like they were good in that regard. But I feel like the folks that we have in now have way deeper more hidden agendas, and they're hiding behind like that fiscal conservatism to trick us when really they are setting us back and they're making us more subservient.
So we so close at talking, but this is my thing. I will pivot like a pirate with a peg leg because I don't want anybody setting parameters that say, okay, I'm going to give this to people of color, black people, whatever. And I have to stay within that realm in order to get that benefit. That means they're limiting my growth. We watch it in housing. We watch it in jobs. The same child that'll get me locked up will get my wife's services. And then I can't move back into the house. Let's say if I have a felony and she can't go get the job that she deserves after getting her education because she comes out of the threshold and she has to start all over with her and the kids. So one of the struggles I have is that there are parties that seem to build things to keep us where we at. Is this where you are? So I'm gonna give you something to stay right here. Because if you come out of that, then you go to nothing. And you're in that gray area between having money and being able to do something and not having something and being subservient, as you said, and receiving these benefits. So me personally, I love my kids. I love my kids on their worst day more than I love myself on my best day. So if I have to give up my self-respect, I wasn't like this. I was a selfish only child, right? But if I have to give up everything about me and look like a Sambo, Uncle Tom, everything to give my kids and my grandkids the best life that they can have, hey, where your tap dance shoes at?
Now, can I answer that? My rebuttal would be, that makes me think about people who sue McDonald's because the coffee's too hot.
Yes.
That's what that makes me think of. And I say that because it's like, it's coffee. You know, it's hot. We're grown-ups, right? We're adults. I'm going to give you hot coffee because the coffee is supposed to be hot. If you are clumsy and spill it, I don't think that you should be able to sue me because the coffee's hot. Now, my whole point with
Angelique said if there's policies in place, then these are things that you can take advantage of. So if I'm able to sue because the coffee was not tested to go over a certain temperature, that's liability on the organization themselves.
Also, that case for your younger listeners, you might not remember what a big deal it was in California. It kind of helped make the stereotype of California as this very litigious place to live. Actually, there's a really good documentary about this case, and that poor woman really got hurt, and there were actually some legitimate claims she had, and you know, people kind of.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you, Miss Shah.
For sure.
I didn't know how to say it like that. Thank you so much.
Now, let me clarify what I was saying. So let me clarify my point though. Is that now I get it. If somebody's just drinking the coffee and it like scolds their mouth, of course I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the folks who have like these erroneous complaints just to try to take advantage of a situation. The point that I'm making.
Whose choice is that to make it erroneous?
Here's my point. Let me bring my point home, is that we shouldn't blame Democrats or Democratic policies and social services and all these things that can become a crutch to us for the, like, in contrast to the help that is meant to give. So my point is that if this person needs a service, I would much rather that service be available, even if that means this other person is abusing the service. So I feel like that we actually blame the democratic policies too much in that regard. Whereas, would you rather have somebody abuse these services and interests, or it not be available at all?
Well, we got to be fair.
You know what I mean?
We got to be fair.
I think that's where we
are. That way on Democrats, we got to look at that way on Republicans. We can't fault anybody. Like, we know successful African Americans that own land, houses, and everything else, right? So because their lifestyle, because people made better choices and people sacrificed early in order for them to get certain tax breaks to be in this economic status of a Republican, who are we to fault because you have a certain amount of revenue, black or white? Well, let me finish. Yeah. So now at that point, yes, we can't blame Democrats, but we can't blame Republicans either. And if I aspire to have a life that lines up, if I say this is the type of life I live, and then when I match up where the parties are at that particular 4-year service or 8-year service, whichever one that lines up with my family and my values, or at least doesn't go against my morality to the point that I'm sick every night, you have a right to choose that and then survive through that presidency.
I'm with you.
You know,
my only rebuttal to that, on the flip side, what I say about liberals and Democrats, on the conservative side, it would not be as big a deal, because I hear my brothers and sisters out here too that are very like pro-black and everything, and actually saying, and I understand the philosophy and ideology of when you think about like a Malcolm X or like any like black liberation sort of theology from days before, of that, you know, we did start off more conservative, like as far as like more fiscally and independent and all that, and you want the people to have the power. You don't want too many government oversights and regulations and stuff.
That's right.
So at its core, I would agree with that. If we ever made it to a post-racial society, that is why we still need regulations. And I feel like that's why we are better off working through that, because the people that are saying, well, it's like, let's get government out the way and let the people have free reign and do it. People, you know as well as I do, people of color don't have the leg up to be successful that way. Let's keep it 100 with each other.
No, I'm with you on that.
We don't reserve the, now we could, don't get me wrong. If we get our stuff together, we absolutely could, but we don't hold the wealth and the social power or control the social construct to be able to be like deregulate everything as the Republicans are saying, because the people in power are showing to be racist.
So when we say defund the police, are we not saying the same thing? Because if we want to regulate ourselves inside our own neighborhoods without any oversight, we can't have it both ways. So if we're going to vote on where we are and then we plan on staying there, that's what should be a vote. If you don't like the way things are and you say, okay, that is a better day, do I got to go through the sticker bars to get to that point? That's your right too. You know what I'm saying? So what I am fearful of is that because we're black and because we want to see certain things, that our emotion is leading our votes and not truly where our lifestyle is or where we plan on going. And if we don't have any plans on where we plan on going, then we're already lost. And that's going to be a bad vote all the way around.
What, you know, the use of sort of slogans and things that are that people may feel like defund the police is, you know, these are activist slogans in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of depth to the way some people think about this kind of abolitionist movement. But what I would say is, if you are a voter, if I could offer any piece of advice, look at the candidates' positions, because while they might get cast a certain way by one party, reading their positions, reading what they've actually said is really the way to know what they intend to do or what they say they do, what you can actually hold them accountable to do. I would say don't use the slogans that their opponents put on them to decide what their policy is going to be.
Would you rather the devil you know or the devil you don't?
Well, I think there are ways to know all the devils.
You know,
and that's the point, right?
Yeah, I was about to say that. We know both devils.
There are ways. And even when you get down, and when we're talking about building wealth in communities, yes, federal policy matters. Federal elections matter. And also your local planning commission matters. Who is treasurer in your town or county matters. Who, you know, how those local decisions are made really matters, actually, a lot. How your schools are run matters. So, you know, there's just a lot of ways to parse that and say, what is the role of a president of the United States? Are they getting down into the weeds and setting policy, or are they setting the tone? What is the role of a treasurer in Nelson County? What is the role of a mayor of a town in Virginia to make decisions for everybody?
Yeah. But Angelique, aren't the majority of the people that go to the meetings before the election are a certain party and not the other? Because one party seems to only show up at your churches and want to help you during election time. Another one, even though they act like they don't care no time at all, you know what I'm saying? They're consistent. So some people might view it as okay. Some people look at it worse because you show up in my face when you need me, as opposed to somebody who's not there at all. Like, I know how you are, you know what I'm saying? And black people and people of color deal with racism like that. You know what I'm saying? Sure. They much rather know how somebody feels. I'd rather know the race is over there, right? Because then I can know how to operate. I don't want to put my trust in something that I don't know that I might speak and they don't speak to me. Or I might walk back, you know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of ways, one of the parties tends to show all 32 teeth when there's a need, right? And then once they get you in a box, Then they say, okay, well, you agreed to this, so this is what we're trying to do. Now, the box that I'm putting you in, I know it's 50,000 y'all over there, but we only got 8 slots. You know what I'm saying? But there's 8 more slots than what they're giving you, as opposed to people, especially people of color, are starting to get more successful in the men's side because of entrepreneurship. So because people
in the men's side,
on the male side of things, because a lot of people of color that look like me in my age group have been to prison, have felonies, have things that exclude them from housing, apartments, and other things. And the only way around that is not the money that you get from the government, but actually being out here and generating your own wealth. Now, if I have to generate my own wealth, I'm going to go with the party that allows me to make the most money.
And that's an analysis you have to make. Which party is that going to be?
Well, no, that's an analysis I was
term.
thrown into. I and people like me did not choose to have to live like that. I'm very intelligent, right? But because there was a fictitious war on drugs, and as long as they could get people in court, the judges who were owning the prisons were getting money. There were a lot of people who are getting expungements and stuff now, but they went into the system. So you've literally lost 20, 30 years of your life trying to prove something that was legal on one side, but illegal on another. If I had cocaine, I got 5 years. If I had crack, I got 20. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because of baking soda. So baking soda is another 15 years, right? The system wasn't broken. It was done what it was made to do.
Yeah.
So
the meetings that you mentioned though, like that's more about money. People who, because I complain about that all the time too. Like we have these local government meetings and town halls like in the afternoon. So to me, that ain't even partisan. That's about who got money to be at home in the middle of the afternoon.
To be clear,
You know what I mean?
local offices are nonpartisan, right? People are not running as part of a party for these local offices. And
wait a minute, I don't know if I believe that. I may be wrong, but I'm speaking from my understanding, not from what might be actual fact.
Yeah.
And that's what people.
But it's both sides though. Because we gotta remember,
what I'm saying.
Like there's rich on both sides.
She's probably 100% right. But if my understanding tells me that that's not true, my vote is going to match my misunderstanding.
You might look at a candidate and their positions for a local office and feel that they resemble one party or another, but they are not running as part of a party. And when you look at money in the politics, there are some races that have become more politicized and there's more money in those campaigns. But this year, no, there's like almost no money in most of the campaigns. And you know, we can get to this, but part of our issue at the local level too is that people don't run. Yeah, it's whoever has stepped up to take that position, or who was appointed because a seat was vacant. And that's another part of this, right? If you want to be represented and you live in a place with a couple hundred people and there has to be 5 people on your town council, somebody's got to step up to do that job. Otherwise, whoever is available or whoever is kind of brought in by the existing candidate or existing locally elected officials, those are going to be the ones running things and deciding how things get cut up in town. And so that's why, you know, voting really matters. And actually what happens between this post-election period and the next election season really matters.
Yeah. And we are talking to Angelique Shaw of Charlottesville Tomorrow and their 2024 voter guide. Angelique, I remember last year, particularly Jesse Higgins from Charlottesville Tomorrow did a lot of groundwork when it came to like surveying, particularly the rural areas, looking outside of Charlottesville. So to your point, I'm curious on if there was like one highlight, like one shining star of like what was different, because a lot of times people forget the differences between a lot of the rural areas and urban areas. As far as people running, you know, to that point, is that, I mean, because people of color running for local offices in a lot of our surrounding, you know, rural areas is unseen.
There have been a couple candidates. They don't always win, but there have been people stepping up more and more. And that also has to do with the fact that, I mean, you all know, right? People of color are moving out of Charlottesville and even out of Albemarle County. So you see Louisa, Green, Madison, Nelson, Fluvanna have much more diverse communities now. And those communities are beginning to say, hey, we want to be represented too.
Beginning.
Yeah, just beginning.
Yeah, I know.
But like Albemarle hasn't had a person of color on the board. But they said like decades.
Yeah.
Right? It's been decades.
Was
if
it
I'm
3
not mistaken.
decades?
Yeah.
It's
Something like
been a
that,
long
yeah.
time. Yeah.
There's one race in Albemarle County this year. It's for the special election for the Rio district. There's a school board seat available.
I thought you was going to say like Dr. King. There's only one race, the human race.
Yeah.
Like that.
And don't
We're in
get me
election
wrong.
mode here.
And don't get me wrong. When we talk
Yeah.
about like school board and stuff like that's one thing, but like I was thinking of board of supervisors for the counties and
Yeah.
stuff like that's where it
Yeah.
gets like very different in the ways.
There's so many structural ways that it is difficult to run for office, local
Yeah.
candidates, right? I mean, these are smaller places. You have to have time. Most of these offices are volunteer or very low pay. Some have stipends or or some salary. And as things are politicized, yeah, you're like putting yourself in a position of leadership, and that's what leadership is. So the question, that we're thinking about a lot is how do we present information that allows people to understand what these roles are, and also how do you even register your candidacy? What are the steps you need to take to be ready to lead communities in this way? Because in truth, last year, 75% of these local elections were uncontested or didn't have enough candidates. 75%. That means as voters, we aren't even choosing. We aren't even choosing who represents us. This year, there's 23 local races happening in the 12 counties and a couple towns that we cover in our voter guide. 23, largely town council, town mayor, couple treasurer, and a few special elections and other seats.
Yeah.
2/3 uncontested or not enough candidates. And to me, when we're talking about democracy, yes, the presidential election matters. This is the crisis of our democracy in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So y'all make sure y'all go see that voters guide because they break it down. You can select your jurisdiction by county or town. So please y'all get informed.
Absolutely.
Who's who. So because the last day for early voting was yesterday on Saturday, November 2nd, 5 p.m. This Tuesday, November 5th is election day. Angelique, school us real quick on what happened with the state wiping some registered voters from contention. Can you break that down? What happened?
So there was a court case. There were a couple court cases, and it was allowed to proceed. But basically, the basics are that some folks filled out a form at the DMV most of the time. We're still trying to figure out exactly what happened. Daily Progress actually had a good report on Charlottesville area voters who were purged from the registration rolls. Some people checked the wrong box on that form. And what the Youngkin administration did was remove folks who may be U.S. citizens but didn't check the right box on their DMV registration form, saying that they're U.S. citizens. So they're comparing those two documents and saying there's an inconsistency here.
And of course, that most adversely affects brown people, right?
It does. It does, because who is filling out those forms? It's a lot of people who recently moved to the area, but not entirely. We're seeing now it's taking a minute to see who these voters are. But voters who get their voter the upside of this is two things. One, if your voter registration has been removed, it's not that many cases, so I don't want to cause panic here. But the state of Virginia actually lets you know. They send you a notice. The other thing to remember is that if you get to your polling place on Tuesday,
okay, this is important,
and you go to cast your ballot, and the poll worker says you're not in our rolls, you can register up to the day of the election, and you can cast a provisional ballot. So that means that even if you're not on the books, and the poll worker, God bless them, these wonderful volunteers who do this work for all of us. You can cast a provisional ballot. That means that it doesn't go in the machine. It doesn't get counted immediately. There is a review to make sure that you are who you say you are, you're eligible to vote, and that you haven't voted somewhere else or voted already. And then your vote gets counted.
Angelique.
Okay, so there is a way.
That ain't exactly true. Back when Denver Riggleman and Bob Good were running, they had and the part I'm saying is not true, is that these volunteer voters, God bless them. No, ma'am. I was down there and they had people waiting at the gate and police officers up top that were disqualifying people that were voting for Denver Riggleman for any type of thing. You name it. You didn't have your license with you. You didn't have a current license. You didn't have a current inspection sticker on your car. They were looking for any type of reason to block you from voting.
Yeah.
They tried to block me from voting. I was down there for Denver. That was where my boat was going.
Yeah.
And I had to call my wife, and she, for whatever reason, took a picture of my ID before I left, for a couple of days beforehand, and had to send that picture. So the only reason they let me through, because they was like, oh, she got a picture of your ID. Yeah, I'll let you vote. Not knowing that she actually had it. Sent it down there, and then I was able to put my vote in. But there were people crying at the bottom of the hill that were blocking, and they weren't black people. They just didn't care.
I'm really glad that folks are beginning to understand their rights better because, okay, let me back up a second and say people who volunteer to work these polling places, again, by and large, these are people who just want to help. And yes, there might be some people who maybe are ill-informed or have partisan politics. How do we guard against that? We have to know what our rights are, right? So when you get down there, you know, I can cast, even if you say that I don't see you in the polls or I'm not accepting your form of ID. If you have any questions at all, in our voter guide, we link to all the things that you need to know about your right to vote so that you can get your provisional ballot in, even if they're not going to let you vote and count it immediately.
I had a DMV paper where I just got a new license and they wouldn't accept it. And it was from their DMV down in Lynchburg where I was voting at. You know, so
they need picture ID, right? So you know, I think that you had you know, were able to get that picture was really, really good. Should you have had to do that or not? I'm not gonna, you know, say, but you've got, you know your rights. Voting is really important.
Very true.
And make sure you, you know, if you're eligible to vote, use that right, exercise that right. Don't let anybody stop you.
That's right. That's right. And Angelique, we're up against time, but thank you. This is great information.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully we got people energized, ready to go vote, ready to exercise those rights. But anything you want to leave with us? Last words in regards to Seville tomorrow, 2024 voter guide.
We really hope it's a good service. That's really our goal, is to give people the kind of information that they can use to get empowered, to understand not just, you know, the election, but everything that happens after the election, you know, all the decisions that the folks that you're electing into office are going to make and how you can get involved. Listen, we're out here in Central Virginia. We're not in New York City. We're not in Los Angeles. We don't have that many people here. We all have to get involved if we want our community to work right.
That's right.
And the way, how do you get involved? One way that we think we can help is by helping you get information. So definitely get to that voter guide. If you like it, sign up for free emails so that even after the election, I know for some folks it's really hard to think about after the election right now, but after the election, stay informed, understand how you can get involved in the programs and civic life that affects you every day.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. So next time, y'all, go vote.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
To the Ism H to the Izzo Talk Show.
That's right.
Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Razor.
In the booth, in the building. One more again, like we never left. Razor had to. Hey, look, Razor got so heated in that last conversation, Max. He had to go get 6 Walters.
I know, right? All the talking.
6 Walters.
That was an amazing conversation. It really was. And I don't know that we recognize all the time. Maybe we do. Razor probably do, if nobody else. Just how much value the show has in providing information and just educating our community and making sure that they understand the things that are important and why they're important. So thank you guys so much for that. Y'all way too deep for my brain when I walked into the room. So, but you did an amazing job.
I appreciate you, Miss Max. That is why we're here. You know, like as we said before, no matter what we're going through, when those lights come on,
that's right.
You know, like we got a job to do.
That's right.
And speaking of a job to do, Miss Max, I'm so delighted right now because we have a young lady with us that we've been wanting to have on these airwaves for quite a minute now. She always has lovely smile every time I see her out. Like she and I have been a part of round tables together, been vendors at different great events around and whatnot. And it should not be understated the great work that she's doing. I'm talking about none other than Janaisha Bradford. Jade or something. That's right. And she is the creator author. She's a financial advisor, and she is the creator and author of Mahogany and Friends, where she is recreating how kids think about money. And so, Jay, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for obliging. So we educate, we entertain, and but we always leave the show with purpose. And one of the things that we talk quite a bit about is just economics in general, finance, and the importance of being business owners or just being like good stewards of such. And so the fact that you have a passion and a purpose to financially educate the youth and children. Like you can't, like, these are the Black conversations we need to have around a dinner table.
Right. That's
right.
The
you know
point.
what I mean? Like not just talk about who better, Jordan or LeBron.
Yeah.
We need to be talking about do we understand finances?
Yeah, and building generational wealth.
Right.
So, yeah.
Hey, loving it, loving it.
And Black financial advisors are pretty rare. So,
Yes.
you it's almost like a unicorn.
Yeah. And, sometimes it does feel like a unicorn,
Yeah.
but unicorn's pretty, but it also
right.
feels a little hard at times.
I
To get people, especially in your community, to
Mhm.
trust, your word of advice, and
Mhm.
to get people to really see the benefit in working with you that are from other backgrounds
Mhm.
than just Black. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a fun journey,
go ahead,
though.
Charles.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you said, the journey. Let's start at the beginning of the journey. When you look at your career, even before the Mahogany and Friends publications came in, tell us about your story. What got you on this career track?
Okay, so it's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. But it ultimately started when I was young. So at the age of 7, my father passed away, and he was the patriarch of our family. Like, my mom didn't even know how to pump gas. Like, he was really the pillar of our home. And he left her with a large insurance policy. She, like many of us, didn't have any financial education. Her parents didn't come from a wealthy background, so she was very green. And being the oldest, I really watched her deal with that newfound wealth, the mismanagement of it, that ultimately led to 2008 when the market crashed, us losing everything. And I used to always be like, how did that happen? Like,
processing all of that as young as 7.
yeah.
Okay.
So fast forward, I wasn't 7 when the market crashed,
Right.
but I was a little older. I was in college, and I'm like, how did this happen? Like, we grew up good. She sent me to Hampton University. I'm like, now why am I having to pull out of school? Like, what's going on? And I just realized that it came from lack of financial understanding and just that educational point. And that led me on a journey to make sure I'm empowered in my finances and make sure I wasn't going through what my mother went through. So I set out on a journey and ultimately came to a point in my career where I was studying for my Series 7 to become a financial advisor. And I just really remember, like, guys, I failed the first time. But I just really remember feeling like, okay, I'm just breaking down what this word means. What's a stock? What's a mutual fund?
Right.
I can't even officially study. Like, I can't just read it and study like you would anything. I'm breaking down what words mean. So it kind of felt like a foreign language, and I went on a deep journey. Like, why is this happening? Like, why didn't I learn this when I was younger? And I found that a lot of people had those same questions. So when I did pass my test, I was listening to Beyonce, and it was like, you're part of something way bigger, that song, right? And so I'm like, I'm learning this information is bigger than me. It's not for just my own, growth, but it's also for my community. And so I was sitting on my couch and I told my boyfriend, like, what do you think about, I'm starting a brand called Mahogany and Friends. Like, I'm gonna write this children's book. I'm gonna do this. I was very confident about it. I'm like, it's just gonna work. I'm gonna see how it goes. And it was just a book. And then everyone took to it and it became what it is now, a brand that is focused on educating the youth on financial topics.
And is this character Mahogany you?
So I've always tell everyone she embodies me and my sisters. Like, she's very vibrant. She has a little sass to her. She's education, like, she's smart. She's ambitious, and it embodies a little bit of all of me and my sisters.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, like, it does go a long way to see Black children represented on such a book cover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And honestly, like, when things get whitewashed, so to speak, like, that does sort of irk me, a lot of times, because I'm like, representation is important.
Yeah, it's
important.
And it was important for me the first book, Mahogany on Wall Street. So I chose the name because mahogany is a strong brown wood. And I'm like a girl on Wall Street. She's educated. She knows what she's doing. She's fearless. And that was really the point that I was trying to make. And Yeah, that kind of does annoy me too when things are whitewashed, just to be palatable for someone else.
Right.
And I tell many people from all backgrounds, just because the characters are brown doesn't mean that it's not information that's needed for
Exactly.
your
Oh, yeah.
child. Like they need to see diversity.
Yeah, it
And
goes
then
both ways.
also, I grew up reading like Llama Llama Red Pajama. I didn't think I was a llama.
Right,
You know
right,
what I'm
right.
saying? So that was just my point right there.
Yeah. And before we dive a little deeper into the meaning and the offerings that you have in the Mahogany series, you also have the Malcolm collection, right?
Yeah.
Like so, like besides the obvious differences, tell us a little more about Malcolm. Like, what are the nuances there, and the importance of adding Malcolm to
Yeah.
Mahogany?
So I wanted young boys to see themselves. It was important dealing with money. And then so this series was just really created to give tools that I felt like I had to learn or find myself. So I think if you're setting the future up, you just give them the tools and show them how to use it properly. So Mahogany is really focused on financial literacy and financial education, and Malcolm is really focused on entrepreneurship. So Malcolm is a young, ambitious boy who wants to be a gazillionaire, and his friends discourage him and tell him like only basketball players can do that. And we know that's not true. But with the help of his community, he learns about things like active and passive income, utilizing investing and compound interest to reach his goal. And as you see the series grow, you'll see him diving deeper into actual entrepreneurship things like starting a business. I can't give it all away.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they'll be in a universe together. So it's other characters too.
Love it.
They'll be in a universe together ultimately when we create our animated series.
Look
That
at
you'll
that.
see all of them, and you'll see how the financial aspect component, the entrepreneurship component, and also like just healthy mindset all works together to give you that bright future you need in navigating money in the world.
We own at least one book in the Mahogany series, and there's a lot of information packed in there, even for adults. I read it to my kids. I'm like, I think I need to read this again because I'm not sure I learned everything a great a great resource to kind of set the foundation or the baseline, if you will, for both children and in some cases adults too.
Yeah. And that was the purpose of these books too, to spark fun conversations with the family, but get parents, especially in my community, our community, knowing the importance of sitting down with an advisor and getting them to map out your finances. You can't do it by yourself. You shouldn't be like weird to talk to someone about it. And if your kids are having those conversations, usually that makes a parent say, let me figure out what they're talking about so I can help my child a little bit.
Just out of curiosity, what type of feedback or responses do you get from these such powerful characters and such strong topics being depicted by the minorities, by Black people?
So everyone loves it. I get great feedback. So I do a lot of events. Definitely my crowd is the Invest Fest crowd. So shout out to Earn Your Leisure. But that space that they created is really like my target audience. They understand, they want it, and they want to give it to their kids, and they're loving it. Some feedback that I did get was, and I've learned, I was a new author with Mahogany Goes to Wall Street. So just breaking that content could have been broke down into a couple of more books just to like really just spread it out a little bit so that they can just understand that one point instead of so many topics, so that they don't have to go back and forth.
Oh, it sounds like a good excuse for another book though.
Yeah, I got a lot of books on the way.
Why do you think, with all that Black people know how to do, right, we can make a lot out of a little, and anything, whether it's food, resources, whatever? Why has money management been such a Achilles heel for our generation?
I just think it's always been a taboo topic. Like, oh, I don't want to, and and I can go into my own theories on history and
We'll take it. Go ahead.
like
Feel free.
slavery and how mindsets are set up to keep you where you're at, how the system is designed. But I think that has a lot to do with it. But it's been taboo just to tell your neighbor, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And that's the only way community learns from one another is sharing. So if I'm weird to share with you that I just made some money off of this stock, you're not going to know, and you're not going to be able to tell anyone else. And I think we often try to gatekeep in our community for the simple fact that we want to feel like, oh, we're doing more, we're doing better. And that just goes to that slave mentality, like wanting to be the house Negro, you know what I'm saying? Or that one that is being praised. And I think slowly but surely we are breaking that. And I'm starting to see that, like when I do go to rooms like Invest Fest, you see people sharing tidbits, just like when people come up to me and they have a question about, oh, how you do a book. I'm not going to gatekeep. I'm going to tell you. Now, if you're in a space where you're monetizing on your knowledge, then, be okay with also paying for expertise as well.
That's right. Razor. That's right.
That's right. Now, she been fussing it. Look, all right, the moment of truth. I'm bad with running my mouth when people want to hear me talk. You know what I'm saying? And I'm working on that. My wife been working on me with it. But honestly, being able to monetize what like the information you're doing. You took the tragedy of losing your father, incorporated you and your sisters into the Mahogany young lady, and then giving out information that can also help your community, right?
Yeah.
That is something I personally know it's hard to monetize a gift. If something you're good at, I'm good at running my mouth.
Yeah.
I was a barber for 27 years total.
Yeah.
So talking was something I did. So when it came time to try to figure out how to monetize what God has given you and your understanding, it was a difficult thing for me.
Yeah.
So I would love to read like all your whole series and just see how everything is broken down and see like, hey, you know what? This is where I didn't know, and I leaned to my own understanding and reverted back to something that ultimately hurts me.
Yeah. And that's true. When you have a gift, it often feels like, why am I charging for this? This is not a job, right? Like, oh, I can tell you this, and I'm gonna tell you this too. But you have to have community. So I have people in my circle that'll say like, oh, this is you can make money off of that. You should do this. Yeah, I know this feels like a way to give back, but maybe you can do it in a different area so that's why we created our nonprofit arm. But other areas you do need to charge for your time because it's valuable and that's your property. Like
that's
intellectual property. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because like that's also one of the things culturally that I think that we are growing in. That whole point of, and a lot of that comes from I think our spiritual foundation as well.
Yeah.
Right. It's like we come from that feeling bad to be when we profit off of something that we feel like is God-given, so to speak. You know what I mean? Not realizing that like that is how a lot of revenue streams work. That's how it operates, and we shouldn't feel bad about that. Now you don't get over on people. You don't cheat people.
You don't get over,
right? But
you make sure you do it to the best of your ability. Like we're not just packaging something in. Oh, A, B, C, D. No, you package it right. You make sure it is going to be something someone values. I see that a lot. Sometimes people are just like, oh, I have this business, and they don't package it right. They don't take a lot of pride and thought into it. And if you're wanting someone to value your product and come back and back again, you have to make sure you put that time and effort and detail into packaging it correctly.
Right.
Yeah. Is in across racial lines raises your point, like circles are circles, whether you black or white, like I see it in different rooms. If people want like you in the know, they're gonna put you in the know, and then they're gonna outcast whoever they don't other want. I think that's a human issue. But we are joined by Janasia Bradford, creator and author of Mahogany and Friends, and we're talking about the whole empire. I'm gonna call it the empire, Jay.
I love that.
because Malcolm, we got Malcolm on that thing as well. Oh, and the young homie that did the song too, I call him Young Jock.
Shout out to Jaquise.
Yeah. Tell them how that tell us how that came about, because that's big too. And feeding off of that, maybe give us more information about the animated series, like where you are in that progress. Because as you know, a lot of folk don't want to read.
No, they
but
don't.
When you get that nice music video,
and
then when you if you get like the cartoon with it, you can be cooking.
Yep. So that's part of our mission, to make it fun, accessible, and inclusive. So we're also in the process of doing a big rebrand, because I know everyone's like, oh, your website and everything looks great, but I want it better. I have a different vision. And so when I think fun, I want people to see that it's fun, it's educational, it's hinting to all of those things. But one of the things that is important to me is to make it accessible. So not everyone wants to read. I mean, get your kids out there reading, though. They need to be reading. But
absolutely.
I wanted to make it accessible. Like, it's other avenues that we show up. We're fun. I often say, like, we're going to be the next Disney for financial literacy.
There you go.
But Jaquise, shout out to him. He's amazing. He's a local performer in the Charlottesville area. I'm not sure how old he is now, but when we were working with him, he was in 4th grade.
Yeah,
but
I middle school now.
Middle school. Yeah. So it's just so funny to see him grow up. But his mother, we all went to school together, Angela Johnson. And so I just will watch her Facebook lives, and sometimes you'll see Jaquise perform. I'm like, he is so cool. I want to do something with him. Like, and this was before Mahogany and Friends was what it was. It was just, I guess, that's how God works. You get ideas, you see things, you lay on it, it cooks up, and then the opportunity presents itself, and then I just jump on it. So I was like, I wanted a song for the rollout of the Gazillionaire book. And I was like, I really want Jaquise to do it. So I set up a conversation with his mother, Angela, and then LaRaj, who is also a local artist as well. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. It was really fun. It was very organic. It was easy. It was not much to it. And they were like, we're going to get Jaquise in the studio. LaRaj was very helpful with finding engineers. And then my boyfriend, Keith, and we sat down and wrote the lyrics. I mean, I'm a
financial
advisor,
the 90s. Rapper, songwriter, author.
We're kids from the 90s. So I grew up on hip hop, so it was like fun, like to do that, and to be in the studio. And then we went in the studio, and Jaquise just killed it. We recorded it in one day, and then I was like, I have to get on there. I was just talking, I wasn't rapping or anything, but it was a lot of fun. And then we worked with Boo Agee, who does video producing, and we got kids from the local community. And we went to Barbara Dow's barbershop, and we shoot some content there. And we just got all these kids together, and we were like, this is what you're going to do. My sister, shout out to my sister, Josiah. She helped plan out the whole video scenes. We got clothing, we got them to try on. Shout out to all the moms. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. The kids were good. We rented a big van. We were dancing in the car. We had pizza, drinks. It was fun. Yeah,
that's amazing. You know, we of course in the Charlottesville community, but also across the nation, deal with the issue of our youth just kind of going astray, making tons of bad decisions, and everybody's kind of scratching their heads as far as how do we help them, right? And it's things like this, right? You're calling it fun, but for these young black and brown young boys and young girls to see you working in this realm of financial advising, okay? It makes it a little bit easier to understand, and a little bit feels a little more accomplishable. Something that I can do. I can see myself in that. And then we're having fun, and I can see that we can do these different things, and it all be surrounded by this umbrella under this thing we know as financial advising. And it just changes lives. It gives them something constructive to do. It makes them think about the world in a different way. It makes them thinking about Black people and conversations we have and the things we do in a different way. It all just kind of snowballs into what I think that a lot of the kids are missing is catching them early, being incubated in those different environments like the one that you're providing, so that as they get older and, you know, more different opportunities come and they have to make harder choices, they have something that, you know, a point of reference that they could fall back on and say, you know, something that can hopefully deter them from making some bad decisions.
Yes, that's so true. You said that perfectly, and I see that a lot when I go into schools and I do school readings, and you see the little girls just looking in awe, or the boys like, "Oh, that's cool. So you were able to do this. So can you help me with this?" It shows them just a different avenue. And then I also like to phrase it like, "There's other ways you can make money." Like, I feel like a lot of our problems and a lot of reason youth get into issues or crime is because money is the root of it. Like you want money, you want the latest things, right? And if they're younger, that's why I like to target 7 to 11 when their foundation is being built. If you put that in their mind earlier that there's other ways to make money, it's not all about the Jordans. Maybe let's buy that Nike stock, and how you can make money on that end instead of being a spender. Let's start being an investor and earning the money. I think that they a little light bulb goes off in their head, and I see that in the schools all the time. And then just doing that video shoot and stuff with the boys, you could just tell they were really into it and like, oh, this is cool. And you know, even my nephew, he's like, oh, Auntie Nay, I did a speech at school and I wasn't scared. And I'm like, you know, that's really
those little
really
nuggets.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what we are talking to Jay. I'm gonna call you Jay. Like I mean, wanting to make it formal, you know, for radio. But I'm like, call it Jay. She go by Jay. Yeah. But you know what y'all was just saying, you're making me curious about how much does this lead, like the businesses sort of cross pollinate, like this turns into conversations with parents and the adults, because part of that feeds into what we were saying earlier. Part of it is that folks won't talk about finances and money a lot if, for one, like you said, if you feel unfamiliar with it, or if you ain't got it. That makes it harder to talk about, especially with your kids. So I'm curious, like how many times these conversations have sort of have intersected.
They've intersected almost, I would say like 90% of the time. So when I get a lot of emails like, oh my gosh, this information was needed. Like I needed this information. Can I sit down and talk with you? Right. Can we talk about investing? What can I be doing for my children? When I go into schools, sometimes the educators want to sit down and maybe do a seminar so they can learn more about their plan and how they're planning for retirement. So I think it does cross over a lot. It has been it's been hard to do both, like Mahogany and financial advising, because you have to put your all into both. They're both two separate businesses, right? But Mahogany has really pushed my financial advising career ahead. I didn't grow up in a circle where I knew maybe not even one millionaire, you know what I'm saying? Let alone enough to make sure that my career is sustainable. And, you know, I grew up in that same community where those conversations weren't had. So becoming a financial advisor was a little like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to be successful? Where am I gonna find the wealthy clients? And I did interject myself into different rooms. I'm okay with doing that. But I also, my community did show up for me, and I got a lot of work from Mahogany and Friends.
Nice. I have a question for you. All right, I don't know how to say it, but else to say it, right? Our community has a story that isn't exactly pretty. A lot of on the Malcolm side of things, got into gangs, got into drugs, got into other avenues. Do you think there's room for a book that also would talk about the kids that are already, they know that life better than they know their ABCs or their 1, 2, 3, so to speak, right?
They know what life.
They know the life of, like, say, having a parent that is part of crime, you know what I'm saying, in our community. And I think too often we want excellence in the Black community, right? But what is also real is the fact of we have a not so good realm that we survived in. You know what I'm saying? So I know when I used to talk to young people in the barbershop that daddy was in jail, granddaddy's in there with him too. They knew what certain drugs and stuff were, but they wanted to do better. And they had access to resources, money, but they just didn't know what to do with it to turn it legal, so to speak, right? I know people are cringing at what I'm saying right now, but the reality of it is there are a lot of young boys that have more money in a shoebox and underneath their mattress than their parents do. And I reach out to those people to say, man, look, I can't tell you what to do, but this is what I did. You know what I'm saying? I think there is room for that story, even though it's going to make people say, nah, don't write about that. Rise above that. No, there are people in the highways and byways that this is where they are, and nobody throws them a lifeline, you know, but then we complain when they do stuff instead of going out there and being seen across the track, so to speak. So I wouldn't think that might not be not today, but a bad series to write
Hey, Max,
about.
I think Razor trying to get a publishing deal.
Publishing deal up
What
in
you
there.
think, Max?
Maybe like a young adult's book that covers
my intellectual property.
Charles, you got it on record.
Maybe like a young adult's book that is just walking through someone's life that went through that, or like a movie. But in my realm of 7 to 11, sometimes you speaking about the crime in a book, a kid could take to that more than what the content and educational purpose is,
because it's their life.
But or it may just give a kid that it's not their life that like, oh, I can be doing that too. Yeah,
like
he ended up in jail. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think the key is to get kids when they're young. And if they're older, that we can't get everyone in that young age. We're starting now, right? And if they're older, I think that's all about going into those communities and having real conversations and saying and giving real stories and having people who have similar stories that grew up like them and say, look, I created a business plan. This is what you're gonna do. Or, hey, you get X amount of vending machines. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Like, let's flip your money a legit way. And somebody who I likes that does that. His name is called Trap. What is it?
Wall Street Trapper.
Wall Street Trapper. Like he really talks in a way that is reachable for people that are on that level. You get what I'm saying? I listen to him too. Like he keeps it real. So I think people like that, or even if you wanted to do that, Razor, going into those areas and talking and that's what we're trying to do with our foundation part. It's a very green foundation. So we have a 501c3 and we're trying to put a good board together where that is nonprofit work that we can be going into places and you see like people, but we're showing how we rose above everything. Like I'm a child from Newark, New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? And I tell people that all the time, like, yeah, eventually my mom got money, but it was very rough for us. Like I have family members who've been in jail on drugs, you name it. I grew up in the Black community, right, in the 90s. So I think it's important just to share your story and then share how they can. Yeah, it's tempting to do these things that can lead you to jail, but it's other ways to make a bigger bag.
Yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying is you gotta be age appropriate. With the content.
Yeah,
but but that young adult realm, that sounds like that could be a future goal.
Yeah,
we talk about there. But but as we kind of I guess come to a close soon, I was curious. I see people can support, and you mentioned the nonprofit. Maybe tell us a little about that. Folks who want to reach out and support this work.
But before we shift, though, where are the books available? Is there an audio, Audible? Are they on the Audible, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all that good stuff?
Our books are everywhere books are sold.
Okay.
So we don't have Audible yet. We're working on that. You can also the best. Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
I know a person. No.
I'm talking to you. The best place to support though is through our website because we get 100% of those proceeds.
Okay.
Right.
And then as far as if you want to help with the nonprofit part, we have one program called our Push program,
Okay.
and that's placing our books in kids' hands in underserved communities where it may not be their parents' first thought to buy them that book that's going to educate them because they're trying to keep a roof over their head, right? So you can go on there, you can donate however many books, and you get them at a discount. We send a letter, we ship them off, it's free shipping, and we address that it is coming from you.
Well, since you say it like that, Christmas is coming.
Christmas is
a bunch
here.
of parents about to be broke because they're going to be out shopping for toys and gadgets and different things like that. As a financial advisor, what's the best way to use your money if you're gifting your children with presents this Christmas?
Well, I know the little babies want some toys, but we got to really evaluate what they already have. What's a need and what's a want, right? Break it down that simple. But I think the best way to set your kid up is opening up that custodial account and putting cash there and letting that investment grow. So there's a couple of different strategies. It's just unique to what your goals are and what you're wanting. And if you want to talk to me more about that, you can reach out to me. My office number is 434-984-0345, and we can set a meeting to talk about your goals. But I say get some money invested. You start now. The smaller they are, the bigger that pot will grow. And best believe, like I really look back, and my mom did big Christmases, and I wish all that money she would have saved. I wish she would have saved it for me to be able to put a down payment on my home, or money to start a business, or maybe I wouldn't have felt like I needed to rely on college loans. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
You say that now, but that's a tough conversation when that little girl's eyes is watering.
Right.
But I want a dream. I want a Barbie dream house.
And I mean, those are conversations you got to start when they're young. It's harder when they're older, but you got to, show them a different meaning of Christmas and giving back.
Oh, for sure.
Go ahead, Matt. No, I could ask another question. What's the for our young teens who are working jobs after school here and there, legitimately, right? What's the best use of their money?
I think I wish I would have done this, but I would open up a Roth IRA, a Roth IRA. Like, you are really using your parents' money at this point. You're living free. You're not adulting at all. So some of those things your parents are still going to get you, save your money. Like, and that Roth IRA will grow crazy for you. And up to a certain amount, your parents can match depending on what you put in there. And then just watch it grow. You're going to be thankful that you did that in the long run. You're going to outgrow these shoes and clothes. They're not going to even be in style anymore.
Yeah.
And let me just say, of course, since Jay is right here, she's definitely someone to reach out to. But maybe if you're not in our immediate listening area, a financial advisor is so important. And a good financial advisor is going to consult with you for free.
Yeah.
At least initially, right?
Yeah.
And then you figure everything else out. But it's just so important because there's just so many ways to where the sooner we start, then better. There's no point in keep waiting. And no matter how little you can put into it, that little bit can grow the sooner that you start.
A little goes a long way. That small fish grows into a big fish. So, don't try to keep yourself in this one little small bowl and like, okay, I'm gonna eventually grow. No, you got to start spreading your environment to grow bigger. So even if you're not in the Charlottesville area, I take clients all over.
Oh, there you go.
I meet via Zoom. I probably come to your city. I'm in a lot of different cities often. So yeah, you just hit me up. I'm on LinkedIn too.
That's what's up. Jay, thank you. We're talking Mahogany and Friends. You can find more at mahoganyandfriends.com.
Yes, Mahogany. Oh, and I want to just say this. Our workbook is coming out soon. Yeah. It'll be available in the next week and a half. It's called Mona's Budgeting Adventure. So it really goes well pairing with the Malcolm book, but they'll be doing problems, word solving, figuring out income and expenses, the difference between needs and wants, simple and compound interest, and just coming up with their own budget. Is coloring pages in there, also little games that they can play at home. It's really fun and cute.
Do they have you at the local schools, elementary, high schools? Come talk to the kids?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have
good,
something
good.
February for Charlottesville High, that for Black History Month. I'm going there to talk.
Okay,
but I
good.
do mostly all the elementary schools in the area. Yep. And I
Awesome.
do a workshop with Albemarle County Office of Equity and Inclusion, trying to get Charlottesville to get on that list. And then I work with UVA Star Hill Pathways program,
Yeah.
where I do curriculums for middle and high school students.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff. Well, Miss Janaisha Bradford, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, indeed. Feel free to reach out anytime. As it continues to grow, we look forward to having you back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Charles.
Yes, sir. How you doing there?
All right, let's try this again.
Okay.
IMHO Talk
Yes.
Show, Sir Charles.
Go ahead, Ray. I'm gonna let you go.
This Razor.
Get yourself all the way
Yeah,
together.
I'm together here. He came too fast. That's all I had. Yeah.
There's a D, but thank y'all for sticking to it with your stick it to itness, because we're at the bottom of another show, top of the last hour. So that must mean that you like us. You really, really like us. Hey, but if you're just tuning in, don't worry, you got much more as well. We're gonna do a little recap right now because we still got, it's a big weekend, a big week with this being election week.
Yeah.
So it's just so much on our hearts and minds. And then our brother Ty Cooper is going to come through and help us close out the show, give us some info on yet another film festival that he has coming up beginning of next year. But even before that, he has the 14th annual United Nations of Comedy tour that's coming through.
14 years.
And if y'all have seen the fly, it's looking bigger and better than ever. Tell the truth. So we're gonna get to that. But before that though, y'all, here's what's on my mind, because we're in a very serious time, Razor. Serious time.
Okay, I got you.
This is election season, and even when I think about like some of our top headlines and news right now that the people even may want us to talk about, the main thing to me, and I could have said this to Angelique earlier, because she said like, how are we feeling and like what's our hopes for the outcome after Tuesday, stuff like that. I want us to just take onus. I want us to take responsibility, accountability at the end of it all. Because, and stick with me, Max, but no Diddy. But even when I think about Sean Combs, I think about the fact on how we as a people, are jumping him, rightfully so in many regards. But
tan him up.
Let's remember that this was a young black man who came into an industry of predators, right? So while he's wrong, Max, what I'm saying is, why as a people are we always like jumping on each other? And I kind of know the reason why, but I wanted to put that on the table because it's like it's the same reason why we have violence, like why we have inner city violence and like black on black crime and stuff like that, is because you will take out your pain and frustration on whoever you can. When you can't get to the source of pain and frustration, you're gonna take it out on whoever you can. So my point is, while he's wrong and while everybody else is wrong, we get used as the fall guy so many times, and we even see it locally if we're honest about it.
Yeah,
we will blame folks so that they become fall guys instead of getting to the root of the problem. Like when we look at an entertainment industry full of predators, and even the people who knew about it want to come out now. Why are you coming out now? Why didn't you come out before?
Do I remember you saying throw the book at R. Kelly?
That's what I gotta say.
Yeah. Throw the book at Diddy too. Don't miss my point.
Okay.
Throw the book at Diddy too.
Okay.
My point is that we let things spiral and get out of control, and we're so comfortable. And really, like, I didn't want to go that deep into it. My main point, because I'm connecting this even to the election, is that my main point is that we let things spiral and get out of control because we're so comfortable at taking it out on each other. And the reason that I feel like that's relatable is because even when we place this vote in this ballot, I feel like that at the end of it, we're going to be pointing fingers still and being like, well, this side does this and tells me I got to do this. Like, even if we look at conservatives and say, and they be talking about you shouldn't have abortion's bad. Well, guess what? If you take away a woman's health rights, if she don't want the baby, she gonna find a way to get rid of it, and it's gonna be an unhealthy way to get rid of it. Same, and then on the other side, the flip side, when we say, well, Democrats use black people and they give us too many crutches, they make us dependent on them. Well, guess what? That's still on us. That's still accountability. Because if my sister needs some social services, I want my sister to have social services. And just because somebody else may use it incorrectly or whatever the case is, I still got a sister that needs it. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when we vote and when we make choices, when we communicate with each other, I just want us to be accountable to ourselves. That's all. That's all.
So where do we start with the Diddy part?
I don't know. But I just had a lot on my heart. I just wanted to share. I didn't go to testimonials before service. I didn't go to what they call it, Razor. I didn't go to.
You only went on the altar. He didn't take it to the altar.
Maybe I should have did that before I came in here
I
today.
mean, I feel like because you drew the correlation between current modern day politics and Diddy, I just have to say though, I think I don't know why. I can't speak to why we as a community will come against our own, in some cases, much harder than we will those who are not of our community. And it's maybe because we hold one another to a higher standard. Maybe it's because we are waiting for their demise. Maybe because they're more relatable. We know them by default as both of us being of Black ethnicity, and that makes it a little bit easier to attack them on certain things. I think that's true. That's true. Yeah. But nonetheless, it doesn't give anybody a pass or an excuse, right? And when you've done wrong, you have to face the consequences for that. In terms of this election, though, I don't think, once again, there's no short and sweet answer. And no matter how you cut it, we are not going to be happy no matter which candidate gets in there, and no matter what, we will definitely not be happy with every decision they make. I have found
I gotta
myself,
interject there. If a woman who identifies as Black is a president, I'm gonna be happy with that.
Yeah, but that does not mean that you always agree with some of her decision making.
For sure.
Yeah. But I found myself in recent days, especially as we're approaching the election, thinking about what candidate is going to be best for this country and this world, right? Because I personally am sick and tired. And granted, it, who is the next president of the United States is not going to, snap their fingers, and all the racism and all the vitriol and all of the manipulation, all of the, fear mongering, all those different type of things that is not going to go away. But we as a society, man, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear what I'm talking about right now, but we got to do better. We do. Yeah. It's just that constant downward spiral. And so, I'm thinking about the morality of this country and the candidate that will be best to improve that. The consciousness of the United States. I know Reza has a response that's,
speaking of morality and all that kind of stuff,
opposite end.
We got a man, Reza, that has, like, I don't know how many felonies you got, but he got probably about three times.
He got more
at least 3 times.
Yeah.
And he about to have he has already had, and again, it's people are saying that he is qualified and to run the highest land in all of the world. And that's kind of the accountability and the responsibility that I'm talking about. It's like we come down so hard on each other and some people, but then we got the nerve to say that a man that says it's okay to grab women by the privates, like if you powerful enough, you can do it.
Yeah.
And a man who has almost 40 felonies, knowing we wouldn't get that chance.
Yeah.
So I don't care how much money he gonna keep in your pocket. At what point do we say, nah, you ain't it, bro? Maybe somebody with your policies, but a different person, then we'll vote for them in 4 years, but not you, bro.
I really honestly don't have anything to add to what you two were saying. Both very good points, honestly. And if I'm being honest, it's because when I don't see the benefit of something at this point, I'm slower to make my decision. You know what I'm saying? So when I say things and it upset people or it rub them the wrong way, make people feel uncomfortable, it's because it exists, And if we're talking about making changes in a society that changes up, like 1 minute they were fine with what this lovely lady was doing in her career, and then soon as she go to where she's going to be able to tell other people what to do, then they say, hey, she was locking up Black men. You know what I'm saying? And we, some of us, bought into the fact of, hey, she was locking up Black men when she was doing her job as a prosecutor. Well, that was her job, And then when it comes to, this person over here, before he ever ran for presidency, he said, I'd run for a Republican. I'd have stellar numbers, because he was saying, their prejudices are what lead their decisions.
Yep, he said
And
they're
I'm a
gullible.
businessman, so I'm going to run it as a businessman, not a politician. You know, it's no different than, nobody said anything to Hugh Hefner. He was doing everything that Diddy was doing, in my humble opinion.
That's
He
my
was
point.
just an older white man. So
Yep.
my vote, I am going to vote, right? But my vote is going to be based off of what I think I can survive and what I can do to better myself. I'm going to have a very selfish vote. Period, point blank. I'm not voting just
And that's your
because
right.
somebody's black. I'm not voting just because something helps my business. But I am going to have a selfish vote, because while I may not believe with everything that they say on each side, there's some things I really have a problem with from each side. So what can I live with? If the abortion thing, and this is going to be touchy. Women got a right to say what they want to do with their own body, 100%. But at the same time, a person bringing up the fact of, okay, yes, you have a right to do with your own body, but you also have a duty to be responsible with that body. So if you out here throwing it in a circle and you don't want to deal with the next 18 years of a bad decision, then keep your legs closed, But nobody's supposed to say anything like that, even though to me it's very obvious.
I think we can.
I mean, we can. You got to deal with the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the bigger picture that too, that like I always say, I think people get caught up on just the abortion part itself, because really, and this is part of also when it comes to
you mean the Roe versus Wade decision?
Yeah, more so what I'm getting at is like, this is an example of the depth of having the wrong candidate or bad policies, because we look at so many things that could set black and brown people back, like pre-civil rights. And also that includes women's health rights. So people talk about, would you agree with the majority of people will say, yeah, I'd rather not have an abortion, and I'd rather people not have abortion. I think majority of people believe that part, but this is bigger though. When we talk about people and their rights, women's health rights, not just abortion rights, women's health rights.
What other health rights are on the table? Because all I hear them talk about is the abortion part.
Right, that's right. Because that's sort of like the lightning in the bottle topic. Like that's the hot topic. But really, it's more about the doctors or the state or anybody else being able to tell you like what kind of health rights you have, like for your body, reproductive as a whole. Abortion is just one small part of it. Like, so this bill and what these people want to do is to say, like, the health professionals should be guided by some sort of moral compass, is what the far right evangelicals want to say. And instead of it being, no, the woman should be able to listen to her own body and make her own health choices. And abortion is just one part of that.
I want to make sure people know I'm not talking about like the rape and incest and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that.
That's just it though. But if you let them have their way,
right, they block
that won't matter.
Right. So that's the part that I'm saying when I'm dissecting what they believe in. The lines are blurred on every single thing that they do.
Right.
I understand everybody got excited. My sister was jogging down from the plane with a Converse on and, looking cool, and Howard University. I get all that, right? But after that, I have to live in this world and I have to make decisions, right? And based off of, what you stood for, both candidates, what you stood for when you had the chance to do what you wanted to do, I look at that.
Yeah.
I pay more attention to that than I do what you tell me now.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Yeah. And people have to like dig deep into where they get the information from too. It's good and bad, because of course, like, we're part of the media engine and we try to do right by it. Like, we try to be good stewards of it. But the fact of the matter is, man, it's like things can go viral online until it becomes truth, and that's scary. It's like you got so much misinformation nowadays. Everybody's an expert. Everybody with a keyboard is an expert now.
Yeah.
But Max, I know we got a guest coming too, but I wanted your take, because out of all this political talk, like we said, people can go to CVilleTomorrow.org to the voters guide, and you can actually click on your county or town and dig in information, get all your voting rights info, and make sure you know who's on the ballot, get educated about it. But besides, like, for our President, U.S. Senate, which is Tim Kaine again, and against Hung Kao. Tim Kaine, of course, the incumbent Democrat, Hung Kao, new Republican. And And like 7th district is Eugene Vindman versus Derek Anderson. But the one though, Max, that I want you to close on is the 5th district. So y'all had a young lady in here with y'all, none other than Black woman, Miss Gloria Witt.
Yeah.
She's a Democratic candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives for the 5th district, going up against John McGuire. So we have Kamala, Black, identifies as a Black woman. I'm gonna call her Black woman. I'm trying to be politically correct.
Right.
Black woman Kamala. She got an Indian mom and a Jamaican father. She Black. And look, here's a test. People always want to say, well, what you mean? How is she? Here's the test. Would she have been able to vote pre-civil rights? Nope.
Yeah.
Would she have been a slave? Yep.
Yeah.
So she Black. Let's get over that. All right. But Miss Gloria Witt in the 5th district, how did that, because I actually wasn't here for that, but how did that interview go? And you as a Black woman, even sitting here, across from her and talking and seeing these aspirations, and even on Kamala, you as a Black woman, I want to know how you feeling to see these two Black women taking such power positions.
Right. Well, of course, it's monumental. When you think about the day-to-day life of a Black woman, I'm trying to make this sound good, but the day-to-day life of a Black woman can be very difficult, right? And that's whether we're talking about sexism or classism or racism or, being a parent, managing a household, all of these different things. And that's not to take anything away from anyone else who's dealing with their own challenges on the day-to-day too. But being able to resonate with what it requires to be not just a Black woman, but a very strong Black woman to and survive, so to speak, in this world is a lot. And then when you see these two very strong-willed, very intelligent Black women putting themselves in a position of leadership and being able to step out on what they believe in, have that voice in the crowd that says, this is my thought, this is my stance on this is wrong, just not mincing words, but being very clear about this is who I am, and I'm not going to be swayed in that. It speaks to me, as it should many people. We don't always have good examples of what it means to be a Black woman, and all of that encompasses. And so, they are both great examples to me. But Miss Witt, because I was able to sit across from her and just hear her background and how she was raised, and resonate with her in a lot of different ways, and hear her priorities, her values, right? And her not waver on those things. She's running off of some priorities that many people would say, this is going to be a tall feat. You definitely got a hill to climb ahead of you. But what I gathered from her was, win or lose, I'm going to stand on what I stand on. And those are my beliefs. Yep. This is what it is. This is what it isn't. Take it or leave it. And I can live with losing, but I'm here, and I'm going to tell you. And while I have this space and this time, I'm going to put my lend my voice to the world, if you will. And so it means so much. It means so much. It helps Black women, and I think women in general, to understand that just what's possible, and that it always doesn't have to be the status quo. We don't always have to lead from behind, and it's okay to give your voice and then stand on that, no matter who's telling you that it might be that it's not your place or that it's incorrect. And I wish Miss Witt all the best. She's definitely prepared for this fight through life experiences, through just her desire to advocate and help the disenfranchised, but to make the 5th district and the United States a better place in general, because she sees the vitriol, she sees what these other candidates have to offer. She's watched how it has been, their decision making has been to a detriment of this district, this country, and she wants to change that. And so and so I can walk behind that. I can walk behind that.
There you go. That sounds clear cut. Hey, I think you just got to work on Razor. Razor, where's your polling precinct? Now I'm gonna have to come up there like he can't vote. Y'all check his ID. His wife got a picture of his ID. That ain't right. He can't vote.
That is funny. Nah, this is just, I mean, the basis of this show is, in my humble opinion, right? And the strength of the Black community was always our ability to coincide and give different points of view in order to overtake adversity, right? The second that we got to where people started telling us how we needed to vote, why we needed to vote this way, is when we got weak. A lot of what I say is just based off of getting people to think. I'm not telling you how to think, right? But the fact that if you're unwilling to open up Pandora's box on something, then you have to check yourself, because that is exactly how the enemy will come and defeat you later, because of what you're unwilling to discuss. So I know I may sound crazy with some of the stuff that I say, but really all I want everybody to do is take into account that there are things that exist that can be to your detriment if you're unwilling to discuss them. That's
right.
all.
Respect that. Miss Max, take us to a break. What do you think? We got time coming up.
You know, I think all any of us want, we're not asking for like a perfect world. We're not asking for a perfect candidate, a perfect president, but you know, we want a harmonious one as best as possible, and some decision making that's not going to be to the detriment of certain groups of people.
Yeah. I don't look for harmony, though.
That's all that's at least all that I would like to have.
Yeah, I'm not looking for harmony. I know,
but we complain when we don't have it.
Well, no, let me explain. I didn't say I didn't want harmony. I don't look for harmony because I know that blessings and being able to grow comes out of a place of turmoil and tragedy, right? So I would much rather everything be on the table. Ask the tough questions, see people squirm because they don't want to discuss something, as opposed to, don't ask that white man this. Man, why you ask that sister that, man? You causing controversy. You know, like if it can't be tested and it can't be vetted, it can't be trusted in my world, right? So that's where I am with it. If you want me to put the lives of my children who cannot protect themselves in your hand and in your decision making, I'm going to ask you every question that I want to ask you. And if you have a problem with it, that's your answer too, right? So that's how I look at that thing. Yep. So it's not that I'm not looking for harmony. I'm looking for the truth. And once I get the truth, then I can decide what I want to do and what I can live with.
Well, I guess, you know, also at the end of the day, I have multiple answers to this. At the end of the day, I'm going to do what I need to do to survive, what my family needs to do to survive. I'm going to take care of those that I need to take care of at the end of the day, no matter what the outcome is, right?
100%.
And I think a lot of people are viewing the election the same.
Just don't let the devil fool you. That's all I'm gonna say. That devil, you can't trust him. Don't forget that part. That's what makes him a devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
don't let him use you, huh? Don't let him use you.
All right, y'all, we good?
We good?
Yeah.
All right, y'all stay with us. We're gonna be right back. Close out the show with none other than Ty Cooper talking about 14th annual United Nations of Comedy. Don't want to miss it, y'all. IMHO.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. IMHO Talk Show. We're going to close out the show in true IMHO fashion with none other than Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Razor.
And when I say true fashion, is because we have a very familiar guest, familiar voice, right?
What you say? What you say?
Oh no, I mean, I was getting to you. You know, bro. We man.
I feel like Ty like to come to his interviews and snatch the mic.
Eddie, I'm gonna start calling Ty Eddie Kane. It's my stage now. Yeah, but we are joined by none other than our brother. Been around this Charlottesville community for a while, handling business. None other than Ty Cooper. Ty, good afternoon to you, man.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, man. Always, man. Thank you for joining us and helping us close out the show today. And you know, when you and I were chatting too about this 14th annual United Nations of Comedy and sort of the new faces and sort of the change up, the way this lineup looks, is it may be bigger and better than ever. What would you say?
You know, comedy is very subjective, so it's to each his own. But it's one of the shows I'm very excited about because I have never worked with one of the comedians, Paris Saget, who I added to the show. Replaced Emma Willman.
Okay.
So it's blacker than ever, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well,
So,
you know, code word.
Yeah, code. but we have you know, it's the I would say the comedians, their styles, I was able to stay to what I try to do every year, where I try to make sure that the personalities on that stage are all different. It's very diverse voices and diverse you know, style. So, you know, everyone knows Skiba. He's animated, you know, and I think that, you know, I wanted to keep that there. But then you have people like Anthony DeVito, who is a lot less animated, but his comedy is so witty. And his punchlines are like just cutting. And then you know, Jordan Walker's the way he is and Paris the way she is. So, you know, I stayed true to that. So it's still the same energy and vibe, but definitely she's like the one I have never worked with yet. And I got lucky to have her because she just so happened to be available on that day, but she's working the day before and working the day after. So it was a blessing. Yeah. So I just upscaled the show.
Nice. And we are talking about the 14th annual United Nations of Comedy Tour. It's returning on Saturday, November 16th, of course, at the Paramount Theater. Doors going to open at 7, showtime at 8 o'clock. Tickets are still available. You got VIP available as well as the standard tickets.
Yeah, this year is the first year that we did reserve seating. Usually it's general admission, so you buy a ticket, you sit anywhere you want. But this time you got to buy the ticket for your seat. So it's different.
Now, for those that may be new, because we're talking 14 years, Ty. Like you ain't a young man anymore. 14 years ago, you were a young man.
Yeah,
but you know, like 14 years, man. Like what is? But what is it about, you know, because you being, you know, such an entrepreneur, to go 14 years with this, what is it about this comedy tour that makes you go for yet another year?
It really hasn't been 14. It's 14 at the Paramount. I started the tour in 2002. So we traveled the country many times, and then I started bringing it to not to Charlottesville, because Charlottesville, the first show in Charlottesville was before that. It was at UVA. And then I had it at Sax Jazz Lounge, and I had it somewhere else. But then when I joined the board of the Paramount Theater in 2011, that's when I started bringing it there so I could show them, because, you know, it wasn't that diverse back in 2011 at the Paramount, the programming. So I kind of showed them, you know, I had a tete-a-tete with the marketing department because I didn't like what was happening over there. And then I said, you know what, let me show you how to promote diversity in this theater, because this is a community theater. So you have to have the faces that represent the community, not the white folks with the gray hair. And it was a tete-a-tete, man. It was a little thing. It was yeah.
You almost got put off the board.
No, never that. No, they begged me to be on the board. But and the board wasn't an issue at the time, but it was just management and the marketing department. And I just didn't like how things were going. So I bought my events to show them how to promote diversity. So the Best of Both Worlds dance and step competition and the comedy tour, the United Nations. And that's how it got to the Paramount. And I've been doing it ever since, just to kind of diversify the downtown mall, particularly back then when people were really complaining, saying that the downtown mall is not for Black people and all this stuff. And I bought my events there. And I was like, well, that's one less excuse you have. Although it's only 2 events,
Mm-hmm.
but then the Paramount started to promote more diverse events and stuff
Mhm.
like that over time, and we are here where we are today. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But yes, I am an old man. Yes,
Me too, bro.
The long,
You know, me too.
the long route to that answer. Yeah, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I just don't stop doing what I do typically. I used to promote the Black Ski Fest and all that. I created that back in 1993. College Weekend at Kings Dominion, Freaknik in Atlanta, Black College Reunion in Daytona Beach. So I did stop those, but typically I don't stop doing events and stuff like that, especially if I'm living in the community. So this is something that I just continue doing, and people love it. People anticipate it, and it's subjective. People love the comedian.
Right.
Sometimes people may not like a comedian. But I try to put 4 or 5 comedians on one show so that way I know you're going to like somebody, if not all. And that's why I consistently do it.
I feel like these comedy shows sometimes are healthy in a lot of ways, and healthy in the cities that they're coming to, right? Because it's almost like an educational lesson or a lecture. Like, let me tell you what's wrong with
Cultural,
you,
yes.
right?
Cultural
like,
education level,
so are you living vicariously through these 4 comedians right here? Are they saying what you can't say in Charlottesville?
Well, I say what I want to say anyway. I never let anyone
That's the truth.
stifle my voice. Either you like me or you don't. It's all good. But at least people know that I try my best to do good things here and stuff like that. But yeah, they do represent my voices. You know, I think so. I think they do.
I mean, they
my
represent
voices.
all of ours at some point or another.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I want people to feel too. You know, like Paris Sajay, she's a gay comedian, you know, and her jokes she's freaking hilarious, man. I just hope, you know what, I'm gonna ask her. I didn't ask her this yet, but I'm gonna tell her, say, hey, look, I know, you know, you go when you travel, you do all your different jokes sometimes. I said, but there's these jokes I want you to say right here because Charlottesville will love it. But yeah, so you know, I just try to I would say they represent my voices, and I hope they represent the audience voices as well.
Yeah, and when you talk about, you know, this tour starting even before you brought it to Charlottesville.
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah, so you know, as we've talked about before, Charlottesville is a very peculiar place, and I can imagine that when you're trying to reach certain audiences in the different towns that you go to, you may have to look at the lineup, you know, for that reason. So when you talk about, you know, Black folks feeling welcome in the public theater, welcoming, you know, the Black community in and stuff like that for the shows, like what's that thought process like? Because again, small town and stuff, people know you personally, and not just you, but I'm saying in general, people who do business in small town, most of the time, a lot of people are going to know you, and they sometimes will base your business off of personal stuff because it's a small town. So you know, so I'm just curious in the thought process of when you bring it to Charlottesville, like what are the benchmarks that you're looking for to be like, this is what we need in Charlottesville?
Yeah, I just want people to be really funny, you know, really to really like Max said, more of like an education, right? So culturally though, you know, cultural education. I like comedians to be able to joke about themselves, their religion, their race, and joke about all the everyone else as well. It's like an equal opportunity to get joked on, you know, but you can't eliminate yourself from being joked on. So if you're going to assassinate someone else, you got to assassinate yourself. And the best way you assassinate yourself is you assassinate yourself, your kids, your mom, then everyone else is free game. You can assassinate anyone, but if you talk about your family and you kind of like chop them up, then you could chop up a person with a disability because they look at you as like, okay, oh, he destroyed his own family. So now, okay, it's cool. So really, when it comes down to
it's an art. It's an art.
It's an art.
Yeah.
So when I choose comedians, I look at some stuff like that, but then also when I look at Charlottesville or the Eastern Shore or North Carolina or Memphis or all the places I've been, I do kind of. There's a comedian that I brought here in 2014 who I met in Canada, in Toronto. I was scouting comedians in Toronto at this club called Yuck Yucks back then. And I saw the comedian Aaron Berg. I bought him. Yeah, and he killed the front row. And this woman said that she felt trauma. She hasn't come to my event since then.
Wow.
So with certain comedians, certain locations like a Charlottesville, I am kind of careful. Like I don't do censorship.
Right.
But Aaron was super, super hard. He was hilarious. But This customer came to my show every year. She even followed me to Harrisonburg to come to that those shows. And so I got to be mindful, but I don't censor.
Yeah.
But
I mean, people got to know that, though. You come
hard,
into a comedy show.
and you're on the first row.
Yeah.
Come
like,
on.
unless it's a family event, like
if I promote it as such.
but if it's explicit,
yeah. But so I don't do censorship, but I do. But I am mindful of Charlottesville. But hey, do y'all come to the film festival? I saw you there. I saw some of you. Did anyone go to see Honora? The opening night film on Wednesday.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, it was dope, and it was like loaded in there. It was packed, but it was very sexually explicit.
Yeah.
And then a couple of people walked out, but everyone else stayed. It was a beautiful film. You know what I'm saying? So some people are a little more sensitive than others. But I also I try to appeal to the masses,
right,
and not just 5 people who may walk out of a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I am mindful though. So like Aaron, I would take him somewhere else, but I can't bring him to Charlottesville.
Right. Yeah. And you being a promoter and stuff, and Razor brings up music a lot. We have this conversation about like the impact of arts on, on communities or even on the youth and things of that sort. Like, what's your take on that? Being someone who has been a promoter across entertainment, genres or what have you. Like, are you one? I don't know if I ever asked you this question, but are you one that believes that art is entertainment, or do you feel like that it should reflect life and should be taken literally?
Well, I think all art imitates life. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to imitate life. If it's fine art, if it's music, if it's film, it's supposed to imitate life. But I'm a little bit more, as I'm older, I'm a little bit more hard. Although I don't appreciate censorship in art, I'm a little bit more finicky when it comes down to like music. Like, I don't want my granddaughter, listening to drill music and then emulating that, because art imitates life, and people imitate what they hear, and what they see and stuff like that. Sometimes if it's repetitive and if it's hitting the brain, because that's just how our brain works. Particularly when a person is young and they're developing, you can influence them so easily, especially over repetition, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want my daughter listening to drill music to where she's gonna say, Papa, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna slide on somebody. I'm gonna spin the block. I'm like, yo, what the hell are you talking about? Spin the block. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't want her to tell to me and tell me those things. So I think as parents and stuff like that, we need to just kind of like
age appropriate, right?
Keep our kids away from the art form or some stuff as much as we can. You can't control them when they're out of your house. You can't control them when they outside of your presence. So I don't think that it's the responsibility of the artist, but I do think the household, the parents, that little village that the kids have should be the ones that at least try to limit it. Like, although you may love it, but you got your kid in the back seat, change the radio, put something else on for them that's appropriate for them. So that's kind of where I lean on with that. Like, many times I wanted to hear something, and I'm like, damn, my granddaughter, I gotta, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Many times I wanted to hear something, but hey, you not a sacrifice, but you put your likes and desires aside and turn on. So I said, what you want to hear, baby girl?
Sure.
And she said she want to hear some kind of Asian. Is this fast? Like, they speaking really fast. It's crazy. I'm like, yo, I don't understand what and she be singing this.
Yeah. Hey, Max, I don't know if you're gonna change gears. I had something else along these lines.
I was just gonna say, Dave Chappelle happens to be my favorite comedian, and wondered whose ties was, but there we go.
He's my favorite now.
You should bring him here.
He's my favorite. No, it's too expensive, and no one will go and see him.
Oh, come on, Ty.
Yeah. The people would say
they wouldn't come to see him.
People would, but the people who we want to would not spend the $150, $200 to see it.
So, that's going to take to bring him here.
Yeah, and so that means that the crowd's going to be someone else, and I can't afford to really sacrifice that kind of funds anyway to bring him. He's too big, too big, too expensive. But my all-time favorite is Richard Pryor.
Okay,
and he is my favorite now in like this new age of like comics.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me ask y'all this though. So, on this same vein, Tony Hinchcliffe. Does that name ring a bell to anybody? So Tony Hinchcliffe is the comedian that the Republicans hired to speak at Madison Square
Oh, I saw
Garden.
that. I saw that.
Right. So,
I saw that.
of course, a lot of people have been offended by comments he made. Like he's the one that called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the many things that he
Yes,
said.
I remember that.
And like he even made a comment about black folk, Razor, about for Halloween that we don't carve pumpkins, we carve watermelon. So is it art? I mean, good jokes, right? I mean, good joke. But is this saving grace that he's a comedian and this is art, or being that it was a political rally? Is that why people took it serious and didn't see it as him just being funny? Because he was there to promote a presidency. So does that make a difference in his comedic art?
Well, I think one thing is that we got to look at the platform, right, that was given to him, right? The platform was given to him by the Republicans, and you have someone who people refer to as a big time racist, misogynistic person, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So this comedian is actually working for that man. He's a representation of that man doing that on that platform. So whatever he says, he's representing, that's the voice of that man who's paying him, even with the Republican Party paying him, whatever. But the reality is that that person who's at the helm and the person who is, who platform that really is, because that person running for president, anyone who says anything is supposed to be representing him. So any of those jokes,
I feel you.
Those statements, those jokes, quote unquote, are the voice of, it's the voice of him, right? Or they wouldn't have hired him because they already know what kind of content the guy's gonna say.
Right.
And that's how
I'm with you.
And it's shown that candidate has previously shown and through his actions and through some of his own words, that's how he feels anyway.
Yep.
So it was nothing that wasn't true based on what they feel. But yes, was it disheartening to hear that people in 2024 really feel that way about an island, a place where people actually habitat, people live, who they represent? That's craziness. But hey, if you on the other side, then you should be happy that he insulted them, because hopefully that changed their
They
vote.
won't vote for him.
And and then a lot of Cubans are very conservative.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Now he didn't say Cuba, at least in that moment. I don't know. I didn't listen to him. I just heard some of the sound bites. But a lot of times when you have you have Puerto Ricans who are living in Miami and you have Cubans living in Miami, Cubans vote for the Republicans mostly.
Yeah.
You're right. Maybe they have friends and they're like, yo, bro, like you're gonna vote for him, and you hear how you talking about us, although you're not from Puerto Rico, but you and I are friends, we are brethren. Hey, maybe it will turn the tide. Maybe it will be something that it will benefit the other side.
Yeah.
And you know there's some people listening who disagree, because you just said,
of course,
make fun of your wife, make fun of your kids, make fun of disabled people.
Yes.
It's all an art form.
Yes.
So
no, I agree with that. Like I don't think that he should be censored. I don't believe in censorship.
Okay.
But but what I'm saying is that what
he was speaking
saying,
for the candidate.
He was speaking
That's
for
the
the
problem.
candidate.
Yeah.
So if someone who he was talking about actually was going to vote for him and still vote for him, then that person's an imbecile, because now you know for sure how he feels about you, because he let a mouthpiece who he hired talk and say things that maybe he wouldn't say exactly. That's the way I see it.
Well, can I ask y'all this, Charles and Ty and Max? Isn't it okay if I am a racist, if I believe that my country was better another way, if I believe that what the Black Panther Party did exalted my people and helped us and things of that nature, isn't it okay for me to let the world know where I stand? So I don't have a problem when people say things negatively. Just because they're going for a president does not mean that their viewpoints have to be lied and faked to give me a false sense of a community, so to speak, that does not exist. I much rather them say how they feel and what they know to do. So you at least know, okay, there's nothing for me over there.
Right.
Even though I might want to put on a Brooks Brothers suit, and I got nothing against Brooks Brothers, but I'm going to put on a Brooks Brothers suit and I want to go over there and I want to think that their ice is colder.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I want to be anti-ghetto, and being anti-ghetto is going to a PWI school and doing all these things, right? If you want to put yourself under that gun and knowing that how they feel about you, that's your right. But I much rather him say these type things, and so there's no there's no debate about where they stand. We
I
don't
agree
look
with
at
you
it because
wholeheartedly.
they're president. They're supposed to act like everything is kumbaya. I think that's what got black people in trouble the first place when we came to Charles, what is called not segregation, integration. Like they wanted us to integrate our money and not our black faces, right? And then everybody wants to be black and copy black sayings and doings until the police come. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I actually can appreciate when somebody draws a line that say, no, I am a racist. I like the way things are ran when we run it or you run or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I can operate better in that realm.
It's just us that has these standards, which keeps us from talking reckless in the same way that they do on a public platform. And we don't have the social power, as Charles spoke about earlier during the show, to be able to say how we really feel in these spaces and still, accomplish whatever it is that we're trying to do.
Like I agree with you, Razor, but but the point is that so I'm not upset with you for being honest. I'm upset with us for still supporting you. You gonna spin in our face, and then we still gonna support you.
Yeah, that's
what I'm upset about.
That's craziness.
Sometimes you just gotta let fools go.
Yeah, that's craziness. And for me, and that's the thing about comedy though. Comedy is supposed to be honest, right? So if we have a comedian that's being honest with himself and who he is and who he representing, like the candidate, then hey, I heard some of it and I was like, it's distasteful, but it's comedy. And where I stand, like I said earlier, I don't really censor, so I'm like, all right, that could be kind of funny, but then I could also would like to see another comedian on the other side talk about the cats and dogs that Trump would say people eating. And watch, I guarantee that somebody on this show is going to probably mention something about that because it's so current. And they are smart comedians. They all very smart comedians. So I'm sure something, and they probably custom tailored the joke for it. Right? And then people going to laugh, even if they're Republicans in our audience, which they definitely will be, and if it's Dems in our audience or liberals or independents. It just jokes. Right. But it's also a reflection of what's happening. Any good comedian is going to talk about current events. What's happening, what's the buzz things, what's going on here. They're going to research Charlottesville to see what they could talk about. Like I have Skiba, it was kind of early, right? But after 2017, because I was in August, right, when they came here and everything happened, my comedy show was in November, right? So, but he did it in good taste. It was a joke, you know what I'm saying? But it was a good taste. You got to be smart. Comedian had to be smart.
Absolutely.
That guy was just kind of like a little bit reckless, but
a well-written joke can make anything funny.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, exactly. And even in 2000, what was it? 2000 when they took over the planes, in 9/11.
01,
Well, that was September. I had a show in I think it was November, and one of the comedians had had a towel and put the towel on his head, like he had a joke about the
Taliban.
Yeah, the Taliban, and it was funny as hell. People was dying laughing. Some time went by, it wasn't that much time, but some time went by. I thought it was gonna be pretty early, but the people needed that relief because he did not joke about people dying.
Yeah,
that's not what it was. It was more about the towel and then people being fear. So his joke was about the fear of anyone who doesn't look like you or who may represent a Muslim nation, when the reality is that that's racism on our behalf. Because if we're looking at everyone and we think about the towels, like everyone who practiced that faith is going to take over a plane because you're on a plane because you see someone dressed in a garb. So the intelligence of that comedy allowed him to like break down something culturally and then put the mirror in front of our face, but like, damn, then we just as bad as anyone else. That's comedy. And that's what I look for when I try to hire comedy. I like smart comedy. I don't like some comedy that people just cursing every 5 seconds. That's whack. Like anyone could curse.
Yeah, and you know what else? And Razor makes me think of too, the parallel with the comedy and even, like the election that we're talking about is, again, the freedom that we say that we want. If it was the even playing fields, if it was like, yeah, y'all just be free, do what you want, y'all keep y'all people over there, you leave us alone. But we know from history and currently that is not how it works.
Yeah, it's chaos.
It's like they want to keep a foot on our neck, but then act like, let me just deregulate everything. So to me, the power structure is the power that be.
Okay, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Kid, like, because in politics, the two major parties, you got two sides. You have the folks who are a little heavier with like regulations. Some people say bigger government. You got the folk who say that they're more conservative and it's more about like leave it up to the like to the people. It should be free reign.
Right.
The issue is that it can be free reign if we had the same freedoms, but we know from experience and from the way laws are set up that the fact is that we don't have that free reign. Like when we've tried it, our neighborhoods have been burnt down.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? When we're supposed to have that free reign. Yeah. So, but I say all that though, because the comedy part, it's like, if we look at that microcosm, you look at what Richard Pryor did. You look at
Gregory.
You look at what even Kevin Hart is doing now. They built these ecosystems, these enterprises that allowed them and folks like them to come up and to have that freedom to be able to say, we can say what we want and do what we want because we own our companies. You follow what I'm saying? So when we get to that part, even as citizens and as people, then that's when we're ready to be like, yeah, y'all can deregulate everything because we own all our stuff now. Yeah. But you can't be saying that right now if you ain't owning nothing.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
You know what? Let me say something real quick. I mean, it's a shameless plug in a way, but it's a project that I'm working on, right? It's a documentary. So I'm working. I'm creating a documentary with my partner Annette Banks. Yeah, your guys interviewed Annette Banks.
Yeah, we did.
Six-time Emmy Award-winning filmmaker that is my partner, a good friend of mine. We are. I don't want to give away too much. Okay, we are. We have a person who we have the life rights of in Pittsburgh. He was a civil rights activist, right? So he did a lot of work in Holmes County, Mississippi, and that's where like the first woman start with voting and try to register to vote, and they was like, you got to know the Constitution, so she went back home, learned the Constitution verbatim, and boom. So, but here's the thing, in Holmes County, right, when people wanted to vote in Holmes County, they had the most Black people had the most acreage, right, out of Black people who owned land around the country. It was down that way in Mississippi. Now, people who wanted to, when they were supporting the civil rights activists who come down to help with voters registration, right, in the 60s. Well, long story short, the people who owned the land could vote with no problem, right, because they owned the land. Black people who was renting on white people's land, they were threatened because they was like really voter suppression because they would not vote because they would be afraid to vote because they'll get evicted off of their land. And that's how like ownership, and I bring that up because you talked about ownership. Ownership is everything when it comes down to power, right? You got to own your stuff. Like, if you don't own your house or if you don't own, just whatever it is, you don't. Your rights are
you don't have the power.
Seem kind of decrease.
Yeah.
So anyway, when they had these people down there, these groups of people who were really pushing voters registration and so forth, when it came down to the movement, they didn't allow those people who didn't own land to really be in charge, because they know that if we have meetings at your house, it will be crushed.
Right.
And also people would probably to try to reserve their own sense of stability and security, they may turn and become snitches, right? Yeah. On us, like crabs in the barrel thing. So instead of doing that, people who own the land, and that's where like the person who we shoot our documentary about, he went there and he lived on that particular property with this very popular Black family in Holmes County, and he felt protected. Now, I mean, yes, he almost got killed by the KKK a couple of times and the police, but it is what it is.
He felt protected, but
because he was on that land. He was there with that family, and that family was like a strong family, strong Black family. Like they called the guy crazy. So because the one who owned that land had like very brothers, but it's all that's in the documentary. But I wanted to just kind of bring that up because it's really important when you talk about ownership and stuff like that. You know, really like if you don't have that, then what do you really have, right?
That's right. That's right. Thank you for that, man.
But that's comedy. We're not talking about comedy now. You know, we got off of comedy.
But it makes sense.
That's the reality, though.
Yeah. And we are pressed up against the end of the show. We got to wait for Clee. But 14th annual United Nations of Comedy Tour returns Saturday, November 16th, with 4 national comedians.
Yeah, say their names. Because you say their names.
Yeah, Funny Man Skiba, Jordan Rock, Paris O'Shea,
Yes.
Anthony DeVito at the Paramount Theater. Doors open at 7, show at 8. And tickets are available now. Buy online at UnitedNationsOfComedy.net. Yeah. So Ty, keep up the great work, my man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you never, Max, you haven't been in the studio.
No, he say that every time he comes. And I be here when he say it.
I haven't seen Max in the studio in forever. It's crazy.
All right, y'all good?
We good.
All right, MHO Talk Show.
Take care.
All right.
MAHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion
with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.